And I can tell you that right in the military structure at that time, there were sympathists. As a matter of fact, there were those who were sabotaging the country from within. One of the beautiful things is that the president has put a stop to that, and professionalism has returned into the military. But the question you ask yourself is this: all the people who misadvised the last presidents deliberately, all those who are helping to divert ammunition bought for the Nigerian army that was being distributed to the hands of the Boko Haram, where are all of them? And if you think
they're not being punished,
they are all still within the system. And we have said something, and I said this maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago, we are still waiting for any response on things like this. The country needs to set up a new body with representation from the different arms of intelligence, from different arms of the security system. This new body has to be well screened to ensure that no sympathist, no sympathizer with this Boko Haram cause will get involved. Now let me tell you why I feel for Northern Nigeria. My pain for Northern Nigeria is this: they are going to break the will of Northern Nigeria if we don't introduce a narrative. The last time I was here, we spoke about the narrative. I feel for Northern Nigeria because they will break the will, and all that will happen is this continuous bombardment, unnecessary loss of lives, and because we have not released a narrative to prepare people. Ask yourself right now, from the policy statements that have come from the successive governments, are you prepared for a marathon or a 100-meter dash? Because if we want to play games and politics, we'll talk about a 100-meter dash. If we want to be truthful, Nigeria, we should be setting a timeline for about 40, 50 years to secure this country. And the first thing is the need to put heads together and create a narrative. Let me just drop one more and stop there. Asking for help from foreign nations without doing your homework is a very unintelligent thing to do. There is no globally accepted definition for terrorism. The list of terrorists for one nation is different for the other. Mm-hmm. And what is happening is that the world is coming together based on interdependence to begin to merge so that we can find a common definition. Till now, unless I am mistaken, there is no accepted African definition for terrorism. And being the giant of Africa, Nigeria ought to be the nation that should put together the minds to define what terrorism is. Now, where there's no definition Africa. In Nigeria, and by extension Africa. Now, when there's no definition of terrorism, how can there be policies?
You know, as you're talking, I'm just thinking about a whole lot of things. Most of these things we are saying here this morning have been said before. Why is it that it seems like it is not happening, that this war is really being won? Because yes, you say we are making progress, but when lives are lost, this progress is not going to resonate with the people. Yesterday, I think some people in Yola were protesting. I looked at our report, and you know, people were just talking and angry. So how do we get about this and stop the talk and have more of the action?
I think Reverend has said it very well. He said that only a very small sliver of the war on terror is actually military. The military action is something that you require perhaps to stop terrorist act in progress or to dislodge terrorists. But most of the war on terror is really one with information, with people, with narrative. Like he said, you know, you have to kind of put an architecture together. What is it that we really want to do here? And it's something, he said it is a knowledge thing. It's not about politics, unfortunately. You know, in Nigeria, we dumb down everything to politics. It's not about politics. You know, it's not about how many votes and how big is your club. You know, it's about, you know, it's about the survival of this country. Because we played around with this thing many years ago. 2003 precisely, a small group of people went to Kanama Yobe, and they started, they built up what they call Little Afghanistan. And nobody was paying attention. Some of the people are in the Senate today are making laws. And they were sleeping on the switch. Now, these people started terrorism. I think he referenced some of, they had foreseen some of that. They started terrorism in this country. They were attacking police stations. Even Okiro, when he was in office, he said, we have what do you call it, Taliban here in Nigeria. And the US government now branded them Nigerian Taliban. But who was paying attention? Nobody. And then we were looking at the Yusufia movement. We said, oh, this is a very peaceful movement. But Yusufia movement was radicalized by the same guys who were doing these terrorist acts in Kanama Yobe, in Goza, and everywhere in Borno State. Then Yobe, and then now Borno State. But nobody paid attention. So this is the thing. You see, we don't have that discipline. We don't have that discipline. We don't have the perhaps intellectual capacity, or we are not even interested, I guess, in understanding what is going on here. Now, that is weird. That's why we are not able, that's why these lives, a week before the attack in Polo yesterday, you had twin mosque attacks in Mulai in the same, Maiduguri. Now, I was shocked yesterday. Let me just give you a narrative, to borrow pastor's word. Let me give you a narrative here. An elected political executive yesterday came out and said, why are they bombing us now? What is happening here? And I was shocked. Now I'm like, what is he talking about? Didn't he know that Adamawa State was part of the Northeast we've been talking about since? So now if you have a situation where an elected executive, he's there, he's looking at this, and he's shocked that why are they bombing us? I mean, for goodness sake, who told you that the war was over? So I hear a lot of things that worry me. For example, well, okay, let me leave that. You asked the question, but my thing is that small, only 17, like you said, to 20% of the war on terror is really CT. That is actual shooting, the shooting war, taking down the bastards and whatever. Much of it is citizen involvement, like Alera asked, where do we come in? Yes, the citizens, he said intelligence, but he moved off into what the experts do. The citizens have a role. All of us have a role to play. What are we seeing? What are we seeing? How is it being channeled to the authorities? How is it being handled? Now, what is the accountability for what is channeled to the authorities? Because that's where you need voice logging. Because if I give you information, you don't do something, something happens, I come out later and say, I gave the information to this so-and-so executive.
I told you.
Somebody must have accountability. There must be something there to say, oh, yes, this call came in at this time, this is what was said, and they didn't do anything, whatever, and those people must be punished. That is impunity. That's what is driving this. Because nobody is being punished for, these kinds of things, recklessly losing Nigerian lives.
Okay, Pastor Ladi mentioned that something about we having moles then, and that the president has blocked that. Did I hear you right? Pastor, did you say so? Because I'm just driving somewhere.
Well, there definitely is a reduction in the visibility and the language of moles. Okay,
because now he's talked about the people should also give information, and in the past we've had issues of mistrust. We've had people after they must have given information and somebody will go tell on them, and then he'll be in his house and somebody will come and kill him. Sure. So let me go to Captain Aliyu. How do we draw a line and make sure that people who give this information are well protected? And maybe I should just add this. Where we're talking about 45 people arrested for allegedly trying to, bomb somewhere in Lagos. Are you afraid in any way that this is escalating?
Let's start with the issue of moles. Moles are to intelligence communities as intelligence communities are to moles. So that will not be an excuse. The litmus test of any intelligence chieftain is to contain that. And there are many ways of containing it. We have counterintelligence, for example. In fact, moles are useful. History is replete with examples of moles that were detected in systems. And rather than go get them and execute them, we nurtured them and feed them nonsense. So you want information, have it. And that way we throw the adversary westward if we go in northward. So any way you choose to look at it, moles will not be an issue. And we come to your second question about escalation and what we're having as in threats to Lagos and what have you. I have always been of this mindset. I try to put myself in the head of an insurgent. Insurgency is a business, any way you choose to look at it, and they look to close their businesses profitably. So, given what has been happening in Lagos in the last 3-4 weeks, traffic-wise, security-wise, robberies-wise, if I was a prospective terrorist, I think the time is right to move in. Fashola held Lagos.
Please don't give them ideas.
No, we're not giving them ideas. We have to look this
I know they have the ideas already.
Whether you give them ideas or not, they're going to find the idea. I didn't give them an idea to prospect an estate in Ikoyi. Oh, sorry, was it Dolphin? Yes?
Yes, Mr. Ikoyi.
Yeah.
You're right.
Let me tell you something. The best way you can actually start to grapple with a thief is to think like one. And we find that crazy. I have been called crazy because the economic summit in Abuja last year, when Abuja was virtually shut down, I wrote a small proposal and got through to a contact and said, look, let's plan a hit on that venue. And he said, you are crazy. I said, no, I'm not crazy. If we do that, we begin to see through the eyes of the problem. And if we can borrow his eyes and see with them, then we can wear our security hat and block the loopholes. And that's what is done everywhere. Even in the corporate world, it's called, is it reverse engineering or something like that? So what I'm simply saying is what we are seeing in Lagos is no surprise. It was just a function of time. If something was happening in Maiduguri, I in Lagos should actually be thinking, I should be doing a what-if scenario analysis. If people can leave Nigeria and cross all the way to ISIS, I mean, Lagos is a short stroll.
It is. It is.
So what do you think the security agencies should be doing now?
What we said, as what they can be doing now, as Pastor said, is to go ahead. Just like Albert Einstein put it. Albert Einstein says you don't solve a problem at the same level with it. You have to rise above it. We cannot pursue crime. We must lead crime. If you lead crime, when it gets to that bus stop, it's going to find you have either left there or you are
waiting.
Exactly. So all the states, the 36 of them within this country, shouldn't sit down and wait for the gun to smoke, as my teacher says. You have to actually take lessons learned from where it is happening. And the solutions that are built into that area will also be escalated and shared. We cannot afford to monopolize solutions. We cannot afford to be antagonistic. And we must open up to what I call intellectual rigor. Our security agencies seem to shy away from intellectual rigor. With all due respect, pastor and doctor are not soldiers. But you can see where they are coming in with solutions from. And that takes a lot of rigor intellectually to do these things they do.
Okay.